Happy New Year, everybody. We are looking at the end of 2021, which has been a tough year, right? And now we're looking ahead to the coming year and wondering, what does that mean to us and our artwork, our creativity, our productivity, all those pesky New Year's resolutions we want to set? I am not here to set a lot of resolutions because I stink at it. I really do. Every time I set one, I break it. I last a couple of days, maybe a week at the most. So it puts too much pressure on myself, and then I start feeling bad about myself. And when you start feeling bad about yourself, it's really hard to be productive. So I thought I would show you a few of my unfinished projects from this last year. Yeah, I made all of them this year in 2021. And that's the only resolution I'm going to make for this year, is I'm going to try and finish more work. It might be this work. It might not. I think the reason I want to try and finish more work this year is because I know as I work on a project, I evolve, right? We all do. I mean, you get better at one thing, or you discover there's something you really like to do that you didn't realize you were going to enjoy doing so much, or the opposite, you find something like bling that's not really your thing. So this is the bling book, for lack of a better name, and my goal was to use up a lot of the blingy stuff that I had collected. Now I'm not done with it. The center spread's going to be the green spread. But I'm also not, I enjoy it, but I'm not, oh wow, I can't wait to finish this. So I think it's time for me to put some time in on this one and finish it. I have a plan for how I'm going to do the binding on it. I'm having a good time, but what it's taught me most of all is that I'm over the bling. I like a little bit of bling, but a lot of this stuff that's got all the sequins and diamonds and stuff, nah, it's not diamonds. Diamonds, like I've got diamonds in my blingy things. In the rhinestones, they're not for me. So that's okay. I needed to work on this project to learn that. So I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to say this was a great lesson, but I want to finish it because I'm not that person anymore, and I want to move on to something else. These are some other unfinished projects. I have 2 huge tubs of them. This is taking some gesso or plaster, depending on what I'm working with, making some texture things, maybe adding some plant material, giving it a little coat of paint to kind of antique it. And the idea originally was to build larger pieces. That was what was in the class that I had taken, and I might still do that, but now I'm playing around with the idea of, could I take, and of course this is not the proper one, but could I take fabric and could I somehow build it up on some fabric? I don't know, maybe so. I'm anxious to do some more with that, but I'd like to get the shelf space back. I feel like I'm still that person because I'm working with textures and plant materials. So here's some other things I did. This was a lesson in painting fabric and using textile paint and then doing some embroidery over it. Now, I loved working on this piece. I really enjoyed this. This has just enough of the bling for me, a little bit of the beads. Originally, I was thinking it would be a journal cover, and maybe it still is, but I don't know that I want to make the journal for it. Maybe I will just sell the cover as it is like that, or maybe I will start adding something else. I don't have a lot of cheesecloth around me, but maybe I could, do something around it and make it a wall hanging. But really, I think because I was in my head it was a journal cover, it probably has to stay a journal cover. So I don't know, maybe I will just sell it as an unfinished journal cover. And because this is one of my habits, this is something that I would like to break, but I'm not making a resolution about it. I can't seem to do an experiment with just one thing. It seems like I always have to do multiples. So this was another one in blue. Now I haven't started stitching on this one yet, so I could cut this apart, which I might save this one like that. And this one I hadn't started stitching on yet either, so I might do the same thing. I might consider this as a base for something else. This one I started, and I might keep going on it. I don't know. I'm not the same person I was when I dyed these, so that this is my only thing that I want to keep in my head going forward. Is the reason you want to finish a project is because your head's going to be someplace else. And it doesn't mean that all the projects are going to get finished. Lots of times, for lots of reasons, they don't. Maybe they just don't go anywhere, like this piece of embroidery. It's not going anywhere yet, and it might someday It also might be something that I just cut apart and stitch onto something else. You know, I could totally do that. I could cut apart this bit and stitch it onto here, and it would be fine. So not everything's going to get finished, but I want to think about my projects a little bit differently. Here was something that I did as well this year. So some of you may remember that I stitched together all my little brown and neutral pieces, and then I turned it upside down and I cut it apart. And then I ran it through the washing machine and the dryer a few times so I would get my frayed edges, and I stitched it down. And the idea was I was going to do some tea dyeing over it to kind of neutralize the colors and then stitch on it. But I'm not feeling it. So maybe it's just a journal cover just like that, and I don't know whether I want to finish it as a journal or maybe I just sell it again as an unfinished journal cover. That's okay. This piece I had started off, this was early in the year I did this, and I loved it with all my different dyed fabrics. Now, of course, I sort of wish that I had done different stitches on everything. Maybe it's a journal, a cover journal. Or maybe it's finished like this, or maybe this is the base and I start, you know, adding things to it. I'm not sure about this one yet. I'm still, you know, I could keep adding more of my greens. Maybe I build up my greens from here with something else. So this one is still, I'm still pondering. But this, I think, is going to be my first project for the coming year. It's about the most I can do to get the whole thing in. Not all of this is stitched down right now, and not all of it's going to stay like this, but this started off with me just stitching little pieces of green fabric together because I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then it has kind of grown, and now I can imagine this with rocks and little bits of sea glass and twigs and who knows what else on it. So I'm looking forward to pulling this thing together. So those are unfinished projects that I will be thinking about in 2022 without a resolution to finish anything in any particular order, and giving myself the freedom to go off in new directions because it's a new year. Happy New Year to everybody. May you be safe and happy and extremely creative in the coming year. Make art your way, just because.